Okay, so something happened in Kenya that I honestly didn't think would happen this fast. The government, the actual government, just committed 1 billion shillings to the creative economy. 1 billion. They set up a creative economy office at State House. President Ruto personally said that 30% of all government advertising is going to creative platforms. And they've officially, legally, for the first time ever, recognized YouTubers, TikTokers, podcasters, gamers, and digital content creators as creatives under Kenyan law. Let that land for a second. If you're a content creator in Kenya, you just got recognized by the state. That's not nothing. But, and this is a big but, the Creative Economy Bill that's meant to back all this up has some things in it that we really need to talk about, because the fine print matters. It always does. Right, so let me break down what's actually in the bill, because most people haven't read it and the headlines have been all over the place. First thing, there's now a Creative Industry Development Fund. Real money available for projects across the arts. Grants from 200,000 shillings for individual creators all the way up to 5 million for registered creative enterprises. They've specifically said priority goes to projects outside Nairobi that create measurable employment. If you're a creator in Kisumu, Eldoret, Mombasa, this money is supposed to reach you. Second, the bill creates a credit guarantee scheme. Now, this is huge because right now, less than 5% of creative businesses in Kenya can get a bank loan. Your music career or your content studio is not seen as a viable business by a bank. This scheme is supposed to change that by backing creatives when they go to access finance. Third, the Kenya School of Film and Creative Arts. Now, I have some thoughts about the name of this. We'll get there. But in principle, formalizing training for the creative sector is important. And it includes something called recognition of prior learning, which basically means if you've been doing this for 10 years without a certificate, the system will now acknowledge that. Fourth, and this is the one that directly affects everyone watching this. For the first time, vloggers, gamers, animators, podcast producers, and digital content creators are formally recognized as creatives under Kenyan law. You're in the system. You can register, you can access benefits. Now that's a meaningful shift. I don't want to minimize it. Okay, so I told you there was a big but. Okay, here's the first one. The bill is called the Creative Economy Bill, but if you actually read through the institutions it creates, the Kenya Audiovisual and Cinema Commission, the Kenya Audiovisual Regulatory Authority, the Kenya School of Film and Creative Arts, what do all of these have in common? Film. They're all film institutions. Now, Kenya's music industry generates billions every year. Theatre is a cornerstone of communities from Nakuru to Nairobi. Visual arts, fashion, crafts, these are real sectors, real people, real livelihoods. And in this bill, they get a mention in the preamble and very little else. There's no dedicated institution for music in this legislation, no funding body specifically for fashion or visual arts. Critics have called it directly an audiovisual concession dressed in inclusive language. Now that's a sharp way to put it. And it's not entirely wrong. Second issue, the bill explicitly says in Section 5, Section 2, this act shall not apply to aspects relating to intellectual property rights. Think about that for a second. A creative economy bill that doesn't cover IP. In an industry where piracy is costing up to 75% of film revenues every year, and a country where musicians are still not getting their royalties properly collected. Third, and this one I want you to think carefully about, the new regulatory authority has the power to issue takedown orders. They can force the removal of audiovisual content they deem unclassified or in contravention of, and I'm quoting now, cultural considerations and public interest. Those are very vague words, and vague words in legislation get used in very specific ways later on. I'm not saying it'll happen, I'm not saying when. Someone can take down your content based on cultural considerations. You want to know exactly what that means. And right now, nobody does. All right, enough analysis. Let me tell you what this actually means practically. If you're a creator in Kenya, register. Seriously, the benefits and incentives under this act are only available to people whose names are on the Creative Industry Guild roll. Now that's a real thing. You can register through the KCEA portal or kcea.go.ke or at any Huduma Center across the 47 counties. You need your ID, your KRA PIN, and proof of creative work. A monetized channel, a published portfolio, documented commissions, anything. Do it now. not later, because the first funding cycle is already open and slots are filling. If you're a brand organization, 30% of government advertising going to creative platforms is not just good news for creators, it's a signal. The government just told you where the market is moving. Brands that build verified creator pipelines now will be ahead of every brand that waits for this to become obvious. If you run an impact organization or a donor-funded program, this is your moment to make the case that social impact work counts as creative economy work. The bill defines creative economy broadly as knowledge-based economic activities, a behavior change campaign, a civic education program, a health communication initiative. All of these can qualify. Start making that argument now, before the implementing regulations are written, because whoever's in the room when those regulations get written will shape what they say. And for Kenya as a whole, the ambition here is real, making Nairobi the sub-Saharan capital of film and content creation, connecting Kenyan creatives to meta monetization, engaging the Recording Academy about bringing African Grammys here. Whether they happen depends entirely on whether the implementation matches the announcement. Now here's the thing I keep coming back to. Korea's creative economy revolution didn't happen because they passed a law. It happened because they passed a law and then built the institutions, funded them properly, stayed consistent for 30 years. Kenya has the law, or close to it. What we're watching now is whether the institutions that follow actually work, whether the fund reaches the creator in Eldoret, not just the production house in Westlands, whether the credit guarantee scheme actually convinces banks to lend to a 24-year-old musician, whether the takedown powers get used to protect audiences or to silence voices. This is not a moment to be passive. This is a moment to be in the room. If you're a creator, register now and show up. If you're a brand, invest in creators now. And if you're an impact organization, make the case for your work as part of this ecosystem. This bill isn't perfect. I've told you some of the ways it falls short, but it's the beginning of something that matters. And the beginning is actually the most important moment, because whoever shapes the conversation at the start shapes what gets built. That's us. That's this industry. And we're just getting started. See you in the next one.